My name is Diani Nyembe. I'm going to be talking about a few of my processes and as well as the techniques I use when I'm on a film set. I'm a cinematographer by profession and I hope you enjoy. So we're about to set up a scene which happens in Teria inside a small little room in a hostel, and the whole feel of what we're trying to achieve is quite moody, more on the dark side, and definitely seeing some shadows and some contrast work, and that's sort of been the style of the show that I'm currently working on. And if you look closely, there's all sorts of people that I work around and who I work with who make my job easier, and we sort of collaborate in that sense. Firstly, the first person I'd mention in this regard would be my gaffer, who is someone who helps with sort of setting up my light and the mood that I would like to achieve in terms of the look of what I'm going for. Whether it's moody lighting, whether it's more commercial lighting, whatever the case may be, whatever the script may require. Then I'd go on to mention my key grip, who's my right-hand man, who makes sure that the camera is always safe and that I am safe behind the camera for whatever rig that I would require. And just generally a good guy who makes things happen on set. And I'd also then boil it down to the main person, who would be the director. Well, everybody on a film set is a main person, but I work very closely with the director to sort of get inside their head to make sure that I know what it is that they're imagining, so that I can bring it to life with my lighting techniques and camera work techniques, as well as just overall understanding the story. Because sometimes DOPs will always just want to have a pretty shot, and it probably comes with time to understand that not every scene needs a gimmick or like a fancy shot, but if you can carry the story and push it in the prettiest and best way forward, sometimes it's okay to just let the story be told that way. Reikis are very important because they also give, the rest of the technical crew just a chance to see the spaces before we actually film whatever it is that we imagine. Especially for grips and even lighting, just to see the amount of light that comes in, all the sun's path in terms of what room might be better suitable to start at what time. That sort of stuff, just to sort of track the lights to see if they'd like to block the light out and light for themselves, whatever the reason may be. For grips especially, because say you've got a very interesting shot that probably starts inside a house and somebody walks out and they get into a car, drive off, and you'd like to make that seamless and happen in one shot. You'd obviously need your grip to see the space, to see how we could actually make it work. If there's anything a wall that needs to be broken or a rig that needs to be built, it's always great to know those things beforehand, before you step on set, so that, when you step on set, everybody sort of knows what they're doing. It's important to treat pre-production as king, because the good old theory is that, 80% of the film is shot in pre-production. And once you get on set, it's just really recording it and refining it. But you've thought about it so many times, you've imagined it, you've got the photos, you've done the blockings in your head, you've had the discussions, you've lit it inside your head, that the only reason you should be so prepared that the only thing that's left for you to do is really just to record it and see it play out. But it should all make sense inside your head in each and every sphere, from what color the tablecloth might be for your scene, or the amount of air that's blowing under the window with a curtain that could be out because it's a somber scene and you really want to make it moody or very funny or whatever the case may be. But the point here is that you are so prepared that even if somebody threw the camera at you while you were sleeping and told you to film whatever scene, you would know it off the top of your head. And also, it's a good thing to know what the spaces are, what scenes you're shooting, but you shouldn't let that always be king to you, in the sense that don't lock yourself into one idea, because sometimes on a random drive to work you might find inspiration of how the light is hitting you and you want to get to set and express that. I've often found times that if you come to set and you've already sort of storyboarded and you locked onto something, you close yourself off to the ideas of new possibilities and spaces or things that could just pop up on set, the little magic things that pop up. So you should always be able to embrace those things. Like if you'd walk onto a set and all of a Sunday it starts raining, but if you've sort of closed yourself to that idea, you'll never see the possibility of actually making the rain work for you and enhancing the scene or the vision that you had in mind. It's very important for a cinematographer to have leadership qualities and to know what they're talking about most of the time. I mean, if you think about it, as a creative, nothing is really set in stone, and you can never be 100% sure of what you're talking about until you actually do it. But at least know enough that you know what would work, and even with the risk that you take, you understand your parameters. Some budgets aren't the same as others, and it's a good thing if you're a cinematographer who is adaptable to those situations. Sometimes it's very nice to shoot on a very high-end camera with amazing gear. You know, it sounds great, it feels cool, it's great. But you must also be able to understand how to work with what's given to you, depending on what you said yes to. With what's given to you, in the sense that you know practically what you can get away with, that you have the power to say that the best camera that exists is the one that's in my hands, and not be locked into fancy equipment or not so fancy equipment. For me, the equipment always comes as a big bonus to capturing whatever story that we are after. So don't get too stuck up on the gear. All that stuff, there's a time and place for any piece of equipment, and every job would require its specific tool. So in terms of the process that I take when I take on a script, it would be, I probably would first get a call from my agent or maybe the producer or the director, who sort of feels that I would be the correct person for the job. I then, depending on how the conversation goes, I'd ask if I could see more or see the script, so that I could just engage myself and see if it's something that I would be the right tool for. And if it works out, I go through the script. I then get some time to sort of break down the script, to sort of see the location and see the scenes and sort of try and understand the characters. And from there, then it's, back and forth conversations with especially the director the production designer, the producers, to make sure that we're all on the same page in terms of the story and how it would look and feel aesthetically. In pre-production, there's tons of conversations about sets and that sort of stuff with production designer, with the director, just so that we're all on the same page and we know um, what it is that we're trying to achieve. And you get to a point where you understand that some spaces are constricted by budgets, and you sort of have to make those work. And this little lesson or this little video, I hope you can sort of see how to achieve certain things with certain budgets. This then moves from everybody being happy and it's been okay, and we'd obviously finish shooting or what have you. I then like to work with my DIT, who is the digital image technician, who I prefer to be on set to sort of ingest the footage and work through it just to see that there aren't any mistakes or any bogeys or something that we might need to redo, or also keep track of my lighting patterns or what I do have in mind for the future, if a character's building, or in case I need to reshoot a scene for whatever reason, maybe it's always easy for me to go back to my digital image technician and be like, when we shot such and such a scene, what was the mood, where are we, what were the settings, and that sort of stuff. So they're great for that, and they sort of do dummy grades, I would call it. And what a grade is what you shoot on is a digital negative, so to speak. So you're shooting on this digital plane with this negative, and you've got lots of latitude to take that image into post, to grade or to color it, according to however you'd lit for it or however you imagine it. And that's the job of a colorist, just to refine and to tweak here and there whatever it is that you have shot. And that's a very important process for cinematographers, so that their lighting just doesn't go to shambles, but you are actually refining it in the coloring room. We then go on to start shooting the scene, and as soon as the director's happy, and they would normally ask if I'm happy, and just a general, from every department, just a general ask if everybody's happy, we then move on. Or if it's otherwise, we then fix whatever it is that needs to be fixed, and we then shoot it again until we get it absolutely right. And yeah. There is tons of equipment, and there are tons of light that you could choose from as a cinematographer. But you don't always have that ton of budget to have everything. So it's always great after you've planned and you've taken your pre-production to sort of have a wish list of what you think might be best suited for the show or the commercial or the film or whatever it is that you're working on. You then have that wish list that you have discussed with your grips department, with your lighting department, with your production design team, and as well as your first camera assistant, in terms of any specialized gear that you might need for certain shots. Maybe let's say you really want to get tight on something and you maybe need a diopter, or you want to shoot a close-up on anamorphic lenses, and the close focus just won't let you. Whatever the case may be, there's always different scenarios, and there's never enough time to mention all of them. But whatever the case may be, just make sure that in your arsenal of what you're taking with, in terms of your gear list, you at least know that you can conquer most of the big fights, and also don't set yourself up for something that you do not have the tools for. Because often in time you tend to get carried away and see this amazing space or this gear, and you're like, maybe let's try this. It's amazing to try stuff, but it's also very important to do the right things with the right tools. Getting on set is then the next step after the recce's and all the back and forth talks, and everybody's excited. You sort of start to seeing your actors through your lens, and you start feeling the spaces, and it's actually production time. You get on set. It's always important to do a blocking with the director, just to sort of figure out where the characters start, and block for the camera and see how the camera is going to move to make the scene even more beautiful. And if you're shooting with multiple cameras, you just always want to see where's the best place to place your stuff, to place your stands, to place your lights, the best spaces for light to place your characters. And yeah, that's showtime, and we then start shooting. We chase the best possible light, and everybody from makeup to wardrobe to art department to lighting to grips to the directing team, sound, and everybody's wired, and everybody needs to understand what we are trying to do so that we can start capturing whatever scene that is scheduled for that time.
And action and rehearsal.
How it normally works is I would get onto a job probably with about 2 weeks that's remaining before the principal photography. So the director's sort of gotten their head around some of the groundwork, and sometimes, the production designer would have already been hired and they've probably seen some sets, gone on director's recce's and that sort of stuff. And when I get roped in as a cinematographer, my job then, I'm tasked with getting the script and doing the proper pre-production that I would need so I could brief the production designer on how I imagine certain scenes or spaces or the color palettes for the characters or whatever the conversation might be. And this is a lengthy conversation between mostly myself and the actual production designer, and then obviously with the director as well. We then move from that space and it goes on to recce's, where we sort of step onto the locations and we feel them out to see if they'd work, firstly technically, that you're not stepping into a space where it looks absolutely beautiful, but if you listen carefully in the top corner, there's an aircon or a fan that keeps going on, which might be an implication for sound. As well, sound, is very important for any picture. My name is Diani Nyembe. I'm going to be talking about a few of my processes and as well as the techniques I use when I'm on a film set. I'm a cinematographer by profession, and I hope you enjoy.